Yeah, so we were discussing about the variables. So there are three type of variable: var, let, and const. So let and constant are the variables which were introduced later on. First, we only had var. Okay, this is something to a Python variable, you can say, where basically you can assign any data type of value. Like I said, var name is equal to string. Then I can say var age is equal to 10. So you can see I can also give a number to it. I can also create a array. I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, something like this, right? But there is one thing which we must understand about var. Var has a function level scope. So what does function means? Let's write a simple function and then you'll be understanding it better. So writing function is simple. What you have to do is write a function, give a name to the function. So let's say fun, this is the name. And here I'll be moving all of these variables. When I say it is a function level scope, what does that mean is, if I write some conditions here, let's say, if let's say true, this means whatever I'm writing inside this will definitely run. Am I right? If I print here console.log, if I print name, comma, age, comma, let's say array, these all values should be printed as it is. Am I right? But I have to call this function. So calling the function is also similar to other language. You can see name, then age, and then the array getting printed. Perfect. Now tell me, if I try to print this over here, should it print the values?
As it is function scope.
As it is a function scope, so what is happening, you see here, it's printing undefined, undefined, undefined. But actually, if we do the same thing in Java, we'll get an error. If we do the same thing in C or C++, we'll get an error. You cannot use a variable which is declared later because it runs the code line by line, right? But here we are getting it as undefined, means we are not getting an error. That variable might not have any value. So there is something called as hoisting in JavaScript. What it does, it when you have a variable of type var, what it does, it takes bring it to the top of the, when the code gets compiled, it will bring at the top and assign the values as undefined. So you can think of it as, here you are just updating the values of name, age, and array, which are already there over here. This is a common question asked in interview. What is hoisting? Okay, so if I run this again, you see the same values. So what it was doing earlier was, it was doing the same thing. It was bringing all the var type of variable to the top of the functions. That is why you are able to use it in between. Okay. Now, if we come to, let's say, let. Again, let is not a type. It's not like number, float, or Boolean value or something. But what is the difference between both is, this is block label scoped. It means that if you change the type of this let name to Kaushik, I cannot use it over here. You still see even Visual Studio Code showing that you cannot use this. Am I right? Okay, it will not give an, you see here, throwing a error. It was not there before. But what if I move this line to the block and run it once again? Still it gives the error, right? Means this has a block level scope. You declare it inside the block, use it. Got it? Same thing with the const. But as the name suggests, what can be difference between let and const?
Cannot be changed.
Yes, of course. But there is a difference in the const variable of JavaScript and the normal languages. Here, const means it is referencing to a variable, means it is referencing to a variable, constant type of variable. You can change the value at that place. It's like if I say something like const name is equal to Kaushik, you cannot change the reference. It's like if name is pointing to some address location, that address cannot be changed, but the value at that place can be changed. Got it? So here I can say console.log name and okay, what is
Double quotes.
this one? Yeah, you see this getting printed. So it is kind of a reference variable. Okay. Now, one thing which we must learn from these three things is never use var. And the order you should use these variables is always try to use const. If you cannot use const, then you fall back to let. And still, if you cannot use let, then only you have to use var. So keep this in mind. Always we'll be using const. Only if we cannot use it, we'll go to let. And only if we cannot use let, then we'll be going to var. So you have to just remember the scope and the order in which we'll be prioritizing the use of it. Okay, so let's move forward. Here is a diagram of it. You can read it later on, like scope is given like function, block, hosted. It is hosted. These two has a different variation. I'm not going in that detail. Redeclaration is possible in var. It's not possible in let and const. Reassignment in var and let is possible. In const, it's a constant variable. You cannot reassign. Using in loops, avoid using var. You can use let and const. Okay. About temporary dead zone, you can read temporal read zone. You can read about this. Okay, there are something which got introduced as ES6 features. Like after 2015, there are new additions to JavaScript. That is what we are going to discuss over here. So right now I wrote a normal function and I was calling it from here. Console.log function with name one is running. So if I run this, you can see it's printing function with name fun is calling. You can write the same function in a different way, which is called as arrow function. So the syntax of arrow function is you have to take one type of variable, let's say const or let anything, give the name of the function. So let's say fun2, and you will be keeping a equal to sign. Here onwards, what you will be doing is you will be using small bracket where you can pass the parameters. Only change is if you see this function, it has small bracket, then there is a block. Here also there will be a block, but between these there will be an arrow. And I can run the same thing over here also. I can say function with the name fun2 is running. How to call it? It is same. So if I run this, you see first function is also running, second function is also running. So you should be able to convert every normal function to arrow function because there are some uses of arrow functions which we'll be seeing, right? So easy to understand. Const variable name, which is a function name. You can also pass here the things like, let's say I want to pass my name, which you can get over here and you can print it. So you see Kaushik getting printed. As a normal function, you can pass the parameters. So this is about arrow function. There is template literal. This is a easier way or a shorthand way to create a string. Like, what if I want to create a string like, let's say const intro. I want to create a string called as intro where I want to place a variable which is name, let's say, like my name is Kaushik, but I don't want this to be a hard coded value. I want it to be a variable. So how do we do this now is we say plus, let's say name, and name I can declare over here. So now, okay, I should give a type. Right. And I can say console.log intro. And you can see here my name is Vishal is getting printed. But here there are high chances of making mistakes in space, as well as if there are many variables, you have to format it and you will not be able to visualize it clearly. But what if I change it to string literal, like with backticks? What will happen is I will exactly make what I want to print, and wherever there is variable, I'll change it with dollar, and you can replace this with variable. Okay, so use backticks to make a string literal. Wherever there is variables, you can place there. If you give a space here, that space will also get printed. So you can write here whatever you want to write. Wherever you want to place a variable, you place a variable. Exact same thing will be getting printed. Only change will happen is variables will be replaced, right? So we'll be using this many places. Next is destructuring. Destructuring is nothing but, let's say we have a array. So if we have a array, something like int arr, okay, my bad, not int, const arr. If we have a array like 2, 3, 4, there are 3 values here. We can destructure it. It's like I can say const, I can say a comma b comma c is equal to arr. So what will happen is 2 will be coming in a, 3 will be coming in b, 4 will be coming in c. And if you print abc, or if you just want to print c, then it should print 4. You see 4 getting printed. Same thing can be done in objects also, like map. As we have map in C++ and Java, here we have object, JavaScript object or JSON object. So the objects are nothing but it is a key value pairs, right? So I can create one JavaScript object, let's say JSON for now. JSON and JavaScript objects have a similar syntax. So here I'll say, let's say my key is name and the value is, let's say Kaushik. Then there is one more key, which is, let's say age, and the value is, let's say 20. There is one more key, let's say address, and the value is, let's say Hyderabad. We can also say education, a key as education or qualifications, which can be array. You can say here multiple things like, let's say MBA, then you can say few more things, or it can be an array of objects also, nested objects, where you can give detail like what. Okay, let me make it little clear. So we have a name, we have a age, we have address, we have education. And education, it's like what is the name of your institution. Let's say I studied from CMR. Okay, what was my CGPA or grade over there? It was, let's say 10. Same think before this, maybe I have done schooling, or after this, I did something else. What grade is, let's say, 9, something like this. So it can be a nested object or something. How do we destructure this is, there are some keys, right? So what I'll be saying here is const, give a name which is there here as a key. I can give here education, just education if I want. And now if I print, you will see this. What is getting printed? Whatever there is in the value here. I can also write a age. Now, as this is an object, you don't have to write it in a order, but you have to write it when it was array. Because if I write A and I want the third value, how will it map it? There is no name, right? So, but there is no issue here. If you just want age, you can destructure age, education, name, and you will get it over here. Name getting printed, right? So this structure is something we'll be very frequently using it. Next is spread operator. Spread operator is nothing but when you say this is a array. 1 second. Okay, so spread operator. What we'll be doing here is it is quite opposite to destructuring. Spread is nothing but if we have an array over here, okay? Now, if I say const arr2 is equal to arr, both will be pointing to the same place. Am I right? If I make any change to arr, will also reflect in arr2. But how do you make a copy of it? That is a question, right? So you can use a spread operator over here. First thing, what you want to make? We want to make an array. So I'll put square bracket. I'll put 3 dots and write the name of the array which I want to copy. It will just spread out the values 2, 3, 4 like this. You can add one more element here by yourself writing as, let's say, 6. So what will happen is 2, 3, 4 is already there. You are adding one more value which is 6. So let's quickly print this console.log arr2, and you see here 2, 3, 4, 6. Same thing can be done in the objects also. Objects can also be spread. So let me quickly show you const, let's say session1. Here we want to make an object. So we'll not keep a square bracket, we'll keep a curly braces. And I'll say dot 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 session. It will spread out all the values. And here also you can add a new value which you want. Okay. But for now, let's print this and see if it prints the value correctly. You see the same objects getting printed, right? So this is about spreading. Okay. Next is default parameter. This is something which will be new in functions. Let's say if this is a function with one variable name. When I call this function, is it possible that you don't pass the value per? No, right? If I call it like this, then it will throw some error, right? Let me comment out these things and run it once again. Yeah. So you see this function is still getting called,
Yes.
but the name value is undefined. You can place a default parameter ABC. It's like if you pass a value, it is going to take that value. It's going to override. If you don't pass, it is going to take ABC. So if I pass here now Kaushik, it will be taking Kaushik. But if I don't pass Kaushik, then it will be taking ABC. Remember that this should be the last variables, last in the list. It's like I have age also over here, name also over here. So this default variable should be placed last. Otherwise, there will be confusion. Like I want to pass, let's say, age 25. But if I keep it here, then there is a confusion, which is this should override age or this should override name, right? So, okay, default parameter means you don't have to necessarily pass it. If you even don't pass it, it will be always taking a default variables, right? Okay, objects of shorthand. This is something like if I have to create an object here, you have seen that I have given a name and the value. But here you see I haven't given a name and a value. So it automatically takes X as a name and value of X as a value. So if I print this, let's say if I print this point, you see here printing X10, Y20. This is a shorthand. You could have also written it like this. It's the same thing. You are saying X is the name, Y is the name, and value of Y is the value. It will be no different than the previous one. Okay, async await. This is something which is very, very important. Promise you can study. We are not going to use this. Or so async await is something which is important in JavaScript, and every one of us must understand it. What happens in JavaScript code is it's a non-blocking code. It doesn't run line by line and waits until this line is completed, then I'll run next line. Generally, what happens in C++ or Java is when you write code and run it, it runs one by one line. Next line will not run until the previous line is completed. But in JavaScript, it's not the same. If some line is taking time, if you're making a network call like API call, it will take some time to bring the data. You are making a DB call. It's a network call. It will take some time to bring the data from database. Meanwhile, next line will start running, right? Which is not desirable many place. Like until unless you bring the data, can you use that data next? No, right? So when we have written a code such that we get a data from API and we work on that data. So we don't want to work on those data until unless we have got it. So we'll have to await that line saying that until unless I get a data, don't go to next line. So what simple thing we'll be doing is fetch is used to make an API call. So it's just an example. This fetch will take some time to bring the data. Until then, I'm awaiting it, saying that don't run the next line until this line is done. For that, your function need to be of type async. You can only use await at the place where your function is type of async, right? So this is an example. Wherever we'll have to await it, we'll be using await. Okay, modules. This is something important and we'll be using it every place. So let's say you have written this function. You want it to be available at different place. We have written this function. I want this to be available at different places. So what I can do is I can say export default and name of this function. In this way, you will be able to import it in a different file and use it. Right? So I can quickly show it to you. Like, let me create one more file, ind.js. Here I can say import. So I have a function fun to write. Let's say fun from index.js. And I'll be calling here fun. Now, let me not run index.js, we'll run int.js. So this function is running, right? But the thing is, yeah, I am importing this file, right? That is the reason the whole file is getting run. This file is getting run. Okay, but let me make it little simple. I'll only keep this function and run it once again. You see this function getting called. This is how you can export. So this is here is a syntax like exports const. You can write it another way also. You can write it this way, and you can use this add function over here. Oh, I have to import it. So if I call it, now you will be seeing that this is getting called. Achha. Index.js. Oh no, let's comment this. Comment this. Parameter.
इम्पोर्ट करने का
It's correct only. Okay, I got it. It's returning the value, right? So we have to print the return value. It's printing 5. Right? So two ways you can say export default and the name of the function, or you can say export const name. Like you could have directly written here something like this one-liner code. Okay, this article is also available, so you can use it. Classes. We are not going to use classes, but it is similar to any other classes in Java or C++. It has a constructor. It has methods. Optional chaining. Optional chaining we should use when we are working with objects. Like if I go to index.js, here we have this object. Now in this object, let's say if I just want to print the first institute. So what I'll be saying is console.log. I'll be saying JSON. In JSON, go to education. In education is an array. In this array, print the first value. First value is an object. In this first value, print the institute. If I run this code, let me just remove these things, and instead of running this index.js, yeah, you see CMR set getting printed here. But what if I change this name and this key is not now available there? Now if I run it, it gives undefined. So far it's good. But what if I change this education to edu? It gives error. Why? Because this itself is undefined. We are saying undefined.inst. At the last level, if it is undefined, it's fine. We are not able to find the value, it's giving you undefined. But what you are saying right now is undefined.inst. So avoid this. We use its optional chaining, saying that if it has a value, then only try to get. So if I run it once again, let me stop this.
I think index से पहले लगाना होता है एजुकेशन ऑफ 0 लगाना
Okay, sorry. Um, Education of 0. Okay, got it. ये 0 तो है ही नहीं. Okay, what we can do is we can take an example of this. Let's say it's an address. It's printing now as address is there. But what if I misspelled it as JSON? Now this JSON is not a object. This is undefined. Undefined.address or null.address will throw you a error, right? So JSON is not defined. Here, if I do this, it throws error, but if I keep a optional chaining, JSON is not defined.
इसके पहले लगाना पड़ता है तुम जेसन के पहले
Here. Mhm.
पहला वाला तो जो हम एंटिटी कॉल कर रहे हैं ऑब्जेक्ट वो तो रहनी चाहिए राइट।
हाँ
Correct.
ऑब्जेक्ट के एलिमेंट्स या मेंबर्स को हम इस पर कर सकते हैं।
So I am writing here pin code. This will help us to understand it better. Like okay, perfect. So now I'll be saying JSON. If JSON is there, in that get address, in that address, get the pin code. It should give you the pin code. But what if I change this address and misspelled it? I do not put a optional chaining, it will throw error. But if I put a optional chaining, it's fine, right? So we have to somehow get rid of the errors. Functions in JavaScript, I just told you, like we can write it in two ways. One is the normal way, one is the arrow function way. Sometimes when you have to return only one line, you have to write only one line code. You don't even have to give the curly braces. It's like if I have to write this, you can write it this way, or what you can do is remove this and remove return also. Whatever you want to write in one line, you just write it as it is. You here you can see it.
फंक्शन
Okay, I by mistakenly removed the arrow also. Okay, this is a normal function. Const greet is equal to, this is not required, right? Okay. Now, two more important things, and this is actually we must understand. One is higher order function. I'll be only telling you one, which is map. You should read about filter and reduce. Okay. So map is nothing but it will help you to modify the data. It's like, let's say I have a array. Let's say const arr. In this array, there are some values 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6. I want a new array by adding 1 to these all. So I'll say const new array. This is a variable name. You will be saying arr.map. Now see here what this does. It takes a function. This map is going to take a function. In this function, the parameter is going to be one element from here. It is going to be an arrow function. What you have to return is modify the element how you want to modify it and return the value. So you can say this as you will be passing one arrow function in which the parameter is nothing but one of the element here. Then you will get second element, then you will get third element. How you want to modify it, you modify it and send return it. That will be copied in the new array. So now if I say console.log new array, let's see what getting printed. You see all values are getting added by +1. So let me quickly tell you about the filter. Filter is nothing but it asks you, tell me which values to keep and which values to ignore. So what I'm saying is x mod 2, if it is equal to 0, return true, else return false. If it returns true, it is going to keep this x, else it is going to ignore it. So it is similar to map. I'll just run it once again. Instead of map, I'll be writing filter. Now in this new array, what I'll be doing is I have to return true false value. If you return all true and print it, all values will be there. New array 2. You see all values are there. But if I return false, none of the values will be there. You can make your own check here. Like, let's say if element mod 2, if this is equal to 0, return true, else return false. Now you see even numbers are there, odds are not there. So it just asks you true, false. If you return true, that value will be kept, else it will not be kept. Final one is reduce. Reduce is nothing but it takes an initial value and says you want to reduce the whole list into one single element, then you use reduce. So do some operation on first element, keep it. Do some operation on second element, keep it, so on. You want to reduce it to one single element. Then you will be doing it. Here you will have two values. One is so far what is the answer and what is the current value. So if you have to sum it, you will be just saying so far whatever is the value plus the current value. To begin with, you start the answer with 0, something like this. If you change this 0 to let's say double quote, then it will be start doing string addition.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Async await we have already discussed about. Fetch we'll be seeing when we go to code. One last thing, which is try catch. Whenever you write a function where there are some, let's say, some network call like DB call, or there is API call, you must place that code inside try catch. So the syntax for try catch is try. You have to write a catch. Here you will be getting error if there is any error here. So you have to log those error so that your whole application doesn't go down, but it catches an error and prints that error, right? So here if I write something wrong, like if I use like this is not a object and I'm trying to get a value from here. Now if I call this function, you see DFD is not a defined, but application did not stop, right? Okay, so this is in sort about JavaScript. We'll be using these things while we code in React and Node.js. Okay, most important is the function. And more importantly, arrow function is more important. We'll be using it very frequently. Okay, so next we'll be moving to basics of React and in implementation of React. Okay, that will be next.